Okay, it looks like we have everyone with us today, so we'll go ahead and get started. All right, welcome everyone. This is a regular meeting of the Lake County Board of County Commissioners. It is 1 p.m. on November 16th, 2020. I'm going to copy and paste the agenda into the chat box here.
Mr. Marcel, I've actually got that in there on my end for you, if you would like me to put that in there.
Yes, if you could, that'd be great.
Okay, all right.
All right, so we will go ahead and get started here. First, we're looking for an approval of the agenda. So let me see here. I actually would make a recommendation that we remove number 8 from the agenda. That was taken care of. It didn't need to be a resolution, just a letter to them that we had appropriated those funds in March. So nothing official, something that I was just able to handle on my own, so we can take number 8 off of the agenda.
Okay.
Commissioner Glenn, or Commissioner Mudge, do either of you have any further?
Sheriff's vehicle.
I don't, Commissioner Mudge, or Marcella. Are you, sorry, I don't have any hosting capabilities, not related to your question. And I was just trying to mute some folks or rename them. But maybe if Amit is on here as well, he can help me out there. But I don't have any other changes to the agenda now.
Okay, wonderful. So we will remove number 8 from the agenda, and I will entertain a motion. Commissioner Glenn, do you have anything before we make a motion? Any changes to the agenda?
I have none.
All right. So with that, I will make a motion that we approve the agenda with the removal of number 8 to the sheriff's vehicle lease.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion, Commissioner Glenn?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Mudge?
Nope, thank you.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor? Aye.
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 All right, wonderful. Community informational items. So today we will start with Commissioner Glenn. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any community informational items?
I do not.
Commissioner Mudge?
Just some general reminders that COVID cases are increasing, and Commissioner Marcella, I'm sorry if I'm stealing any thunder here for you. I'm sure you can add to it. But COVID cases continue to increase, and there's, again, just, please, as county staff or partner staff, help us spread the word to try and reduce exposure through larger gatherings, family gatherings. We continue to do work through the Unmet Needs Committee, and I know the Economic Development Corporation is working on anticipating any kind of challenges for the business side of things in this shoulder season into the winter. I do not believe that we have any clarity from the state on what our resort community behavior or allowances will be with the resorts opening. It is, a conversation that is continuing and evolving as our numbers, as we see the statistics come in and have that demand on the healthcare system. As far as other items, I don't think I have anything pertinent to today. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I don't have any informational items at this time. Any commissioner clarifications, Commissioner Glenn?
I have none.
Commissioner Mudge?
I don't have anything, thanks.
All right, myself either. Public comments on items not on the agenda. Today, we will Oh, Angelina has her. Angelina. Okay, so Angelina, I see you have your hand raised and I'll get to you in just one moment. If you have a public comment for an item that is not listed on the agenda, can you please raise your hand and we will call on you to submit your comment. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes and ask that you keep your comments respectful. And we will address them as necessary. So with that, does anybody other than Angelina Salazar from Sanitation have any public comment at this time? Okay.
I don't see any hands, Commissioner Marcella, other than Angelina's.
Okay. All right, Angelina, you are able to unmute and go ahead.
Okay, am I unmuted?
You are.
Okay, so I'm just coming before you guys today for the sanitation liens. And so I emailed them over to Patty, and please let me know if I need to email them to anybody else. But so every year we come to you guys with the liens, since we're not able to shut off service, we lien the properties. And so we just need them to be added to your minutes.
Okay. Let's see here. Patty, do you have a copy of those? Patty, you're muted. Okay. All right, Angelina, is there any way that you could email those to us? Do you need us to approve those today, or is there a deadline on those?
I think it should be okay if we put them, Patrick, they just need to get to Patrick. And I think if we did it at the next, when's your next meeting?
Our next meeting is November. We could have one on November 30th. Otherwise, it's on December 7th.
I think November 30th would be okay. So then I could just come back and then that way it's on the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be perfect. Sorry about that, Angelina. We'll we'll post a meeting on November 30th and have you come with those sanitation liens, and then we will take formal action then on those.
Okay, sounds good. So I will email them over to all three of you guys.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you so much, Angelina.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Is there any other public comment at this time for items that are not listed on our agenda today? Okay. All right, so seeing none, we will move forward with new business. Number one is Public Health CARES Act funding request for the investment in electronic health records software. Commissioner Mudge, I believe that you were reaching out to Christy Dune at DOLA regarding this investment. Do you have any information on this?
I do. We wanted to verify whether or not it was eligible for CARES funding, and it is not, since the contract starts in 2021 after the current criteria set by the state of cost incurred due to COVID and within the time period ending December 31st, 2020. So that contract is ineligible for CARES funding. And I would suggest that, we talk through that in 2021 and see if that's something we can budget for in 2022. But that's the information I have from DOLA.
Okay. So it sounds like at this time, there's not any formal action that is required on that item on our agenda. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any questions or comments about this agenda item?
I do not.
Okay, Commissioner Mudge, do you have anything further on this then?
For clarity's sake, should we take formal action not to include it on CARES? Does that provide more clarity to public health, or?
I don't think that that's necessary. I think I'll just reach out to public health as their managing commissioner and
Okay.
let them know of those specifics. So
Okay.
that should be okay.
Great.
All right, so with that, we'll move on to number 2, which is the USFS presentation on the county's permit and an amendment regarding Ski Cooper and the Tennessee Pass Nordic Center. Commissioner Mudge, I believe that this was a request on the agenda on your behalf, so I'm going to turn it over to you and the USFS so that they can make that presentation to us.
Great, thank you. Yeah, the Forest Service reached out, and as many of us might already know, there's been a lot of kind of transformation and evolution in not only the operations at Ski Cooper, but trying to, since both the Nordic Center, Tennessee Pass Nordic Center, and Ski Cooper have come such a long way, you know, with more interest in investing in Ty Hall's personal endeavors on his side. The Forest Service, Ski Cooper, and the county have continued to work together to align our documentation in such a way that is mutually beneficial and kind of meets the intent of this idea for the Nordic Center to separate, if you will. And I'm sure Michelle Mugler or Pat Mercer from the Forest Service will kind of clarify or correct me if I misspeak at all. So this is a presentation to us, not for determination today. And my understanding, simply put, is that this will separate our current permit with the Forest Service as the county for the operations at Ski Cooper to remove the Nordic Center aspect that is, and the boundary that is currently included in there, but also expand the area in the permit so that it kind of encompasses maybe what the plans are, you know, the long-term projection and planning, so that we kind of kill that bird with this stone once we make a determination on the proposed amendment. So with that, I will turn it over to either Pat or Michelle.
Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate the intro on that. That's what we're here to talk about today. I would like to first thank the Lake County Board and the rest of you for sharing some time with us today. I'm the Leadville District Ranger, Pat Mercer, and I appreciate, on behalf of the Forest Service, the opportunity to talk with you all about what we see as a mutually beneficial permit change for Ski Cooper, which, as Sarah mentioned, and most of you probably know, that the county has the permit for. We hope through this presentation that you'll have a better understanding of what that permit change really looks like once Michelle and potentially Max Vergenzi convey a little bit more on that. The real intent here is to try to get everyone on the same page in the hopes that we can move this amendment forward, getting to something that looks, that makes more sense, really, I think, for everybody involved. So I'll stop with my intro there and turn it over to Michelle, the resident expert on this, to share more with you all. Michelle.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Pat, do you have that map to throw up? If you could do that, please. And I think we'll use the map to kind of explain what we're doing here. But really, we launched into this with the idea that we need to separate completely the operations of the Tennessee Pass Nordic Center and Ski Cooper's operations. So in order to do that, one aspect of this amendment to the permit will be removing the assets that Ty has constructed, being the Nordic Center Lodge and the Tennessee Pass Cookhouse Kitchen and Restroom, from the Ski Cooper permit. And they will be included in a new ski area permit for the Tennessee Pass Nordic Center. What we're looking at now on the screen is the map that we used when we were planning this. And the black and white dotted boundary is the current Ski Cooper permit area boundary. It crosses the Continental Divide and goes over into the White River National Forest. If you look at the eastern edge of that, which is the left-hand side as you're looking at it, the new boundary that we are proposing is the red boundary. And starting at the top of that red boundary, it runs right along the edge of the parking lot, drops down to right in front of the Nordic Center Lodge, and then follows the edge of the parking lot and then drops down to the snowmobile access route that goes to the cookhouse. So that little strip that's between the black and white and the red will be removed from Ski Cooper's permit area boundary. The little loop down at the bottom of that on the left-hand side is where the cookhouse is located. Once we started looking at amending the area boundary, we realized that our forest plan designates that whole yellow area as existing winter sports sites. And that does not match up with the Ski Cooper boundary. So in order to make both the Ski Cooper boundary fit within what is designated within our forest plan as an existing winter sports site, we went ahead and pushed out the proposed boundary to the edges of that management area. And that's why it incorporates so much more area than the original Ski Cooper permit. So from our aspect, that's a win on the Forest Service side. We actually have the permit area boundary matching our management area boundary. It's a win on the Ski Cooper side, in my mind, because it incorporates a lot more area. That is part of Chicago Ridge that is currently being used for the Chicago Ridge Snowcat Tour operation, which is run by Ski Cooper. It gives more flexibility and possibility in the future for Ski Cooper management of that area. And it's a win on the Tennessee Pass Nordic Center side, because now all of their operations will be included in one Nordic ski area permit for them. So at this point, I guess I would ask, are there any questions, or Pat or Max, you can clarify if something I said was not clear.
Michelle,
thanks.
Oh.
Sarah, I just want to make one quick clarification, and then sorry to jump in on you. This is Max Fergensi. I'm representing the regional office for the Rocky Mountain region for the Forest Service in this proposal. And just to be clear, that the ski area permit area would be extended through that whole 1B1 area. However, the operational boundary of Ski Cooper would only change by that little sliver on the eastern edge. Their boundary management would stay the same for what they currently manage. If in fact they would like to do any sort of any activities into that 1B1 area outside of the current operational boundary, it would require Ski Cooper to submit a new master development plan, which then would have to be accepted by the Pike San Isabel National Forest. And then any improvements within that area would have to then go through an additional step, which would have to go through NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act, and be once again and go through that process as well. So the permit area itself it does change the acreage within their permit, but it does not currently change their operational boundary.
Thanks for that clarification, Max. Sarah, did you have a question?
Yeah, that answers some of my question. I think I am just wondering, that was helpful clarification, and also what additional liability, if any, are we looking at now with this boundary expanded, if any? But I think my understanding would be that because we have that operational boundary, we're still have liability within the permit regarding that operational, but I'm not sure. Could you speak to how that looks different?
Right. It should not change your liability at all.
Okay.
You're only responsible for what is within the operational boundary at this time. And that does not change, as Max said. It's just kind of the permitted area that, should there be interest in expanding to in the future, you would have to go through the steps that Max laid out. But at this point, Ski Cooper and Lake County would only be liable for anything that would happen within your operational boundary.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Hey, Michelle, this is Kayla. Is this something that we need to vote on today, or has this been presented to the Ski Cooper board?
I do believe it has been presented to the Ski Cooper board. Dan Torso could probably speak to that. No, it is not something we are asking for an immediate decision on. However, the sooner the better, actually. We're trying to get Tennessee Pass Nordic Center's new permit and the amendment to this permit in place prior to the operating season, ideally.
Commissioner Marcella, it was put on the agenda as a discussion item, so we can consider it next for our next meeting. And again,
Okay.
also, I just want to reiterate that as we saw in the document sent over by Michelle, the boundary, the current boundary is removed, and they've added the new kind of description of that red line. So aligning the permitted area with the management area of the Forest Service, and to remove Ty Hall's operational area are kind of the two goals in this amendment.
Okay.
And then I know that there are, some other items and questions that we have, and changing this boundary should not prohibit us from, any further conversations with Ski Cooper or addressing, our current operations.
Okay. Commissioner Glenn, or I believe Dan Torcell is on the line with us as well. Commissioner Glenn, as the representative from our board on the Ski Cooper board, do you have anything that you would like to add here, or any information to share? Or Dan Torcell, do you have anything at all as well?
This is Commissioner Glenn. This has been in the works for almost a year now. I am having a hard time understanding why we couldn't make a decision on this today.
Commissioner Glenn, it was requested to be on as a discussion item, as good procedure is to present something to the board so that we understand what we're making a decision on.
So does everyone understand what's going on? We could certainly make a decision on this.
I was contacted by the Forest Service to put this on as a presentation and a discussion item, and that is how I presented that to the board. So with the intent of remaining consistent and not springing anything on the board, I do not desire to make a decision, though I don't think it is a complicated decision, but I would prefer to move that to an agenda where we are clear that a decision is expected of us.
Thank you, Commissioner Glenn. Dan Torcell, do you have anything to add to this at all? Or any comments?
I would just add that I think it makes good sense to get this amendment taken care of. Ty Hall's been diligently working on trying to figure out how to have his business a little bit more secured for the future. Depending on which way he goes with it. This certainly accomplishes that. Another thing to take into consideration on the county's part is that by separating Ty's operation with this boundary and the Forest Service creating his own special use permit, it in fact removes what I consider quite a bit of liability on the part of both Cooper Hill Ski Area Incorporated and Lake County. So from that perspective, I think it's a solid move. Taking the rest of the boundary to encompass what's already in the forest management plan as existing, winter recreation makes perfect sense to me. Also, somewhere down the road, the county, Ski Cooper, whatever it is most likely going to want to, continue what I have considered our organic growth, maintaining, the all of the family nature of Ski Cooper. But this is an opportunity to have that parcel, brought in so that, moving forward, if the day comes, when we do want to do something, or whoever's here wants to do something, we'll be prepared to do it. We've already taken a look at a lot of details regarding, as Max mentioned, an updated master development plan, have some ideas, we're just kicking around here. So from my perspective, operationally, it doesn't change anything immediately, with the exception of we now have a service agreement to provide services to Tennessee Pass Nordic Center. The rest of our operation remains as is, but it does allow for future considerations. So again, I think it would be a wise move, to go ahead and follow through and get this approved when we can. Thank you.
Dan, this
Go ahead.
is Commissioner Mudge. Dan, so yes, I mean, I understand that there's, again, like I said, we've been working together and the conversations have been happening. Specifically on the amendment, though, I apologize. I don't think the board had heard, the full board had heard plans until contacted by the Forest Service. So in the spirit of trying to be efficient and work with you all, would the board also need to look at that service agreement with the Nordic Center as a leasee? Do we need to review that as well? And if so, maybe we can get that out so that we can aim to look at that on November 30th.
I don't know, Sarah. I think according to the lease right now, Cooper does have the ability to sublease, which I guess this could be considered. But I don't want to speak, too directly to this. Perhaps John Clapper or somebody would want to, have a word on that one.
Dan and commissioners, this is John Clapper. The board has been reviewing this for some time and support this decision to expand the boundary and also to carve out a spot for Ty so he has his own business. As Dan had mentioned, it reduces our liability. In terms of the agreement, the way I understand it with the county, we do have the right to go ahead and sublease. So I don't think it would be an issue for the commissioners in terms of approval. There sure wouldn't be any problem with us letting you take a look at it. However, I'm not sure that the timing is going to work to have that ready by the 30th, if that's when your next meeting is. We're not sure what that timing is going to look like. There are a couple things we just need to work through with the legal counsels, both for us and for Ty. So that would be the only issue that might be there.
Thanks, John. So would you suggest maybe putting this on our first meeting in December? Would that give you ample time to work through some of those issues?
My concern is that I think the Forest Service would like to move on this as quick as we can. So I don't know if that ends up being a problem. And again, I don't know that there's a formal approval that needs to be given to us from the county commissioners for us to sublet our services to Ty.
Okay. Michelle, do you have an answer to that of us needing to give formal approval to Ski Cooper, or if December 7th is too long of a wait for the Forest Service?
I think that we're trying to get this accomplished prior to then. Ski Cooper is scheduled to open December 9th. excuse me, and if we can get both these permits set before operations actually begin, it will make things much cleaner.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have no ability to weigh in on whether you need to approve whatever arrangement they're coming to between Cooper and TPNC.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Marsland, I think it's two different issues. I just brought it up in case, and we can review our lease and be sure that that's not the case. But I just wanted to bring it up in the spirit of keeping things efficient for Skeet Cooper to continue things moving. So it doesn't sound like that lease agreement or that subletting document would be ready if necessary for our review. So maybe I would suggest we just keep it two separate items.
Okay, so can we put this on November 30th? That way we can vet it through our legal and then make a decision on November 30th with the sanitation liens.
That sounds good to me.
Okay, Commissioner Glenn, does that sound appropriate to you?
Yeah, I guess that's gonna have to work.
Okay. All right, thank you, Michelle and Max and Dan and John for being with us today and walking us through this. And we will convene on November 30th to make a formal decision on this once we've taken it through our legal team and made sure that everything looks appropriate on our end.
Okay,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, have a great day.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to agenda item number 3, which is CPW letter of intent on the easement of Lake County parcels. I believe this is from you, Commissioner Mudge, if you'd like to walk us through that.
Yes. So the Colorado Parks and Wildlife has sent us a letter to approve upon the final acquisition of 8 parcels that is happening currently through Central Colorado Conservancy. CPW already has ownership of the other few, and so they would like to start the process of a conservation easement on the total of 11 parcels. I did send this, let's see, we got this via our treasurer. So this does not come directly from me, but I did send it to Adam Bay, who is the director of the Central Colorado Conservancy. I did copy the rest of the board on that, and Adam's response was that though the title work and the conveyance of that property to Central Colorado Conservancy is not yet complete. They do anticipate closing on the properties very soon, and he sees nothing wrong with us considering the letter of support on CPW moving forward with that conservation easement on all those parcels. The Lake County Open Space Initiative group has been working for many years and had identified these parcels some time ago, well before any of us were in office. And so it is very exciting to have these parcels along the river that will, the intent is to maintain public access for fishing and other recreation enjoyment. And we've made great progress. We contributed to the purchasing financially through Central Colorado Conservancy. I believe it was either last year or the year before. Time is blending together. But yeah, I don't see anything incredibly binding with this letter. And I do think that it would be great to, continue our partnership with CPW and their process to getting that overlay, that easement on those parcels.
Okay, Commissioner Mudge, can you identify where the parcels are located for us? Do you have a map by chance, or?
Let me look. I'll have to see if I can pull that up. I did not prepare to show. Alrighty. I'm sorry, I'm not. It's going to take me a minute.
That's okay.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen and share a map. It does not specifically highlight those parcels alone, but I will show you, I can show you the area.
Sure.
Okay. So let's see if I can make this larger. Okay. So the parcels would include 11 of this area down here, 8 of which the Central Colorado Conservancy is very close to closing on. There's no anticipated barriers for that transfer of property, but down here is where those 11 parcels are located.
Okay. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any additional, excuse me, any additional questions on this letter of intent?
I do not.
Okay. Commissioner Mudge, do you
No,
have
I
any
don't.
information questions? Okay. With that, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the letter of intent requested to the board by CPW with the intention of setting conservation easement over certain parcels in Lake County.
Second. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any further discussion on the motion on the floor?
Not at this time, no.
All right, Commissioner Mudge?
Nope, thank you.
All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. So we'll move on to agenda item number 4, which is telemetry agreement with the Division of Water Resources regarding Dairy 3 reading and maintenance of equipment on site. Commissioner Mudge, I believe that you had this added for the work that you've been doing on the Dairy 3 project. So I
Yes.
am once again going to hand this over to you to walk us through that, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good. So the agreement that I shared with the board, the Division of Water Resources, we worked with them to order telemetry equipment that aligned and is the same as what they utilize and encourage folks to use within the division. They worked with us. We're very grateful for the time that they took to help us install that up on our Dairy 3 site before the weather turned bad. And we actually got verification that it is up and running. And they were able to get, I think, about a week's worth of water flow credited to the county. So we've ordered that equipment. It's been installed. We know it works, and it's sending the signals to the division. This is beneficial for the county because the division, one, will read that and has the software and can kind of compile the ongoing information that is sent to them regarding our water right up at Dairy 3. They will also maintain some level of responsibility for the hardware itself. And so there's a $1,500 invoice for the install that will be a part of the Colorado Water Conservation Board grant and all of the work that we did up on the Dairy 3 site to install the flume and the headgate. And then an ongoing operating and maintenance fee is what we are considering right now, which would be an annual cost to the county paid to the Division of Water Resources in the amount of $880. I don't see any concern or yeah, anything else to bring up, but I'm happy to entertain questions, of course.
Sure. So I guess my question would be, with this, then what's our next step with our water, the water that we have to lease? So this would be the first step, right? So we can measure the flow up there and then start the augmentation plan.
Yes. There are a number of things that could happen in tandem. This was one of them, and then continuing to work with the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District is another, which we don't have a proposed draft of what our partnership would look like. But this is one of the critical steps to administering the augmentation plan. The Dairy 3 water can be allocated for irrigation use only at this point until we have a place to store that water. And so, I mean, just, I don't know how far you want me to go into this, but
that's okay.
It will be important because we can currently allocate an exchange, or I guess I should not say exchange, I should just say allocate the Dairy 3 water as it is able to be measured for irrigation to the golf course for the golf course use to meet our current contract with them, allocating the 23 acre feet. And so we can use that and free up the 23 acre feet that is within our 40 acre feet that we have an agreement with Aurora on to release for us. The 40 acre feet is what we can use in our augmentation plan because it is stored and we can use it for all consumptive purposes. But right now, again, until we have a place to store Dairy 3 water, we can only use that for irrigation purposes.
Okay. That makes sense. All right, so I will entertain.
Okay.
Okay.
I hope so.
No, I'm following, and I definitely appreciate the time and the work that you've put in on the water rights that we have. I think it's definitely something that hasn't been easy, and your work is paying off. So thank you for that. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any questions on this at this point on the Dairy 3?
I do not.
All right. So with that, then I will entertain a motion for the telemetry agreement with the Division of Water Resources.
I move to enter into the operation and maintenance agreement with the Division of Water Resources for the telemetry equipment up at the Dairy 3 Lake County water right in the amount of $880 annually.
I will second. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any further discussion about the motion on the floor?
I do not.
All right, Commissioner Mudge?
No, thank you.
All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 All right, great. Thank you, Commissioner Mudge. We appreciate it. Now we'll move into number 5, which is CMC Resolution regarding amendment to land deed and intent to develop land with the National Guard. Commissioner Mudge, I believe that you were working with Colorado Mountain College and Rachel Pokrant and legal Chris Floyd on this agreement and potentially building and land use. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to you and Rachel to talk through this resolution.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Marcella. Colorado Mountain College has been working a very long time in negotiations with the National Guard, and Rachel can talk a little bit more, if necessary, on specifics there. But there's a great opportunity, it seems, in partnership with them, and in their conversations and the development of those plans. There is a proposed construction on CMC land, and as requested to the county, because in 72, that land or this parcel that we are talking about, not the entirety of Colorado Mountain College campus, but this parcel where development is proposed to occur in partnership with the National Guard and Colorado Mountain College, we need to clean up consider some deed, looking at the deed restriction there that was in the language in that original deed. I'm sorry, I think I just said 4 times. So what we are looking at, we've had legal draft a resolution addressing this parcel loan and to consider relinquishing any deed restrictions that are currently held on that parcel so that Colorado Mountain College and the National Guard may continue with their plans. With that, I'll let Rachel fill in any items I might have missed. Thanks for being here, Rachel.
Thanks for having me. No, I think you covered it all really well. We have this very exciting opportunity to bring an Army National Guard Readiness Center and Training Center for high altitude operations here to Lake County. It would be a pretty major economic generator here, 3 to 5 full-time well-paying jobs and lots of opportunities for our students here and for the community to benefit from that Readiness Center being located here. If any of you know of HATS, it's a flight facility that is in Eagle County, and it's been there over 20 years and really provides an economic driver for that area. Lots of services and local businesses are used to keep that facility running, and it's an integral part of the community now. So again, this is one of those sort of long-term projects. Commissioner Mudge is correct. We've been working on it for quite some time, I think since I showed up in the county 4 years ago. But it is a long-term project, and we're hoping to dedicate that land to that facility in order to support the community and also student learning. So we hope that you will consider passing this resolution, because that will sort of clear the path for the next step in discussing this opportunity with the National Guard.
All right, thank you, Rachel. We appreciate it. Chris, do you have anything to add to this? I know that you helped review and sent us a draft of this morning.
Only just to say that have been working with Colorado Mountain College's General Counsel Richard Gonzalez on this as well. And so I think they're just waiting for y'all's decision today on this resolution. And keep in mind, it's just a resolution in terms of the intent to act. We're in the process of having some follow-up title work done to clarify the legal description of the parcel. And so we can't really prepare the amended quitclaim deed to remove the restriction yet until we get that title work done. So this is just to indicate the county's intent to remove the restriction, which at this point in time would impact CMC's ability to continue its negotiations and to commit to a lease with the National Guard in order to develop this facility.
Okay. Thank you. I don't feel like I have any further questions at this point. The resolution itself was very straightforward in reading through it this morning. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any questions or comments on this resolution?
I do not.
Okay.
If I could make just one more comment.
Sure.
Okay. So I shared the screen, and this is just for everybody's edification. This is the parcel in question, and I would like to say that that the decision does not come lightly, and I think that because there's so much anticipated benefit for the community, the growth of the college, other things that having this facility here in Lake County can bring for the good of the community. I think all those things should be a factor in the board's decision on this. And I I support the resolution. I support CMC's development and partnership with the National Guard. And because I don't know that we actually said it out loud here, but the restriction was that, should the land cease to be used for educational purposes or a structure be built on it, then it would go back to the grantor. I think that you can make an argument that, this development both supports continued education and other education opportunities for the community and the college, and the entirety of the parcel is not going to be developed. We're talking, I don't remember, Rachel, help me if you do. I don't remember the scale of the construction on the parcel, but it is not going to affect the full parcel, correct? I think if I remember correctly, it actually, well, go ahead, I'll let you.
Yeah, so what's proposed right now is actually a building that would be 2 stories high, and about 20,000 square feet, which is a pretty big building. But it would be mostly where that circular road is there in the green portion, close to the road. Those of you who are trail enthusiasts will know that there is some trail in that portion that would be built on, and part of our agreement with the Army National Guard is that any of that trail that has to be built on will be rebuilt elsewhere. So they have made a commitment to rebuilding that trail elsewhere close to the property and connecting all those trails so that trail users don't feel as though something was taken away from them there. But yes, the building itself will be very, very close to that road that's sort of closest to the open space, and will certainly not be taking up that whole 20-acre parcel.
Okay. Sounds good. And just to clarify, Commissioner Mutch, the restriction that's being lifted is the educational use restriction, correct?
Yes, to eliminate, I see Chris has unmuted. She probably has it up in front of her, so I will let her
Yes.
cite that, please.
The more pressing aspect with the restriction in the deed is not so much that it says that if it ceases to be used for educational purposes, it will revert to the county, but really that no structures of any kind can be constructed on the land. I think there is a very solid point to be made that there are educational purposes that will be served by this facility. So I don't see the deed restriction in that regard creating an issue, but the fact that they'd have to do everything intense, I think, otherwise, if we don't remove the restriction as to building improvements on there.
Okay. Sounds good. I don't have any further questions at this point. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any further questions or comments?
No, I don't.
Okay, I will entertain a motion at this time.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to ask a question or two of Ms. Pokrant or Sarah.
Sure.
I'm looking at the assessor's map of CMC right now, and it doesn't include that parcel. Is that just something that the assessor needs to fix?
Yeah. I'm going to let Chris field that one, I think.
Well, yeah, I think, Paul, one of the issues that we're looking at is that there is some title work that needs to be cleaned up. That very well could be that that the title wasn't properly conveyed, or that there were some mistakes in the legal description that was used and such. And so that's why the title company has been engaged to do that research to clarify, what the legal description is for that parcel, and to determine if there are any title issues that need to be addressed as well. That's why we can't do can't amend the quitclaim deed at this point in time, just because there is some inconsistencies in the assessor's database information that suggests that there may be two purported owners of that parcel. And so we need to figure out who the actual legal owner is at this point in time, and to the extent it's not CMC or was not the county at the time that the property was conveyed, to address those issues.
Okay.
The intent is that this is in fact part of CMC's campus.
Absolutely.
Okay. In as much as that's the case, I'm wondering how much of an educational facility this will actually be. I'm wondering because I'm wondering for my own department's sake as to whether any building permit that gets pulled for that gets pulled through the county or through the state.
So it is a training facility. The Army National Guard actually calls these readiness facilities, and they have them all over the state. This would be the 9th one, and I visited about 4 of them so far, and they really do feel actually like a college campus, except for they have an armory, for example, which we do not. It is to bring folks in from especially the Army National Guard, but also from all around the world to do high altitude training. So it is, I would say it's an educational facility. And in terms of the building permit, that is a fantastic question, and I have absolutely no idea, but I'm sure we're going to need to find out somehow in this process.
Well, there has been a couple of construction projects going on up at the campus over the last year or so. And since they are related to educational facilities, they don't get pulled through the local building department. And it is through the state, ADORA, I believe, that it gets pulled through. And I was just curious if that's the case. I'm also wondering if this is going to need any kind of use permit, a zoning use permit, which is part of the reason I guess I'm asking the first question about a building permit. Because if it is just determined to be just an educational facility similar to all of CMC's other facilities, then I think it's just a go ahead and build it.
Yeah, so the agreement will be to lease the land to the Army National Guard. So we will not be really a party to the construction in any way, shape, or form. So I think that it will be very, very different than the other buildings we've constructed up here on the campus, because we will be merely leasing the land and they will be taking it.
Okay. I think then Ann and I will probably try to figure out whether it needs a use permit. And it sounds to me like it will need a building permit from the county.
And just so that you completely understand the process, I keep sort of saying that if this happens before I retire, it'll be a small miracle. It is nothing pressing for anybody to work on right now. The first step is that the Army National Guard has to get 25% of their funding appropriated by the federal government. So it has to go through Congress, and then it comes back to the state to be appropriated by the state. And again, I think it will be a small miracle if I'm not buried underneath it by the time it's actually constructed. So no to-do items quite yet on any of that.
That's definitely the case for me then. I'll be long gone by that time. Ann won't.
All right. Is there any further questions, Commissioner Glenn or Commissioner Mudge?
I just had a thought that, since the resolution specifically calls out the Army National Guard and that partnership, if that were not to come to fruition, then this resolution would be nullified. Is that correct? And also, what number resolution would this be, Patty?
It would be number 15.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Patty. Chris, to answer Sarah's question, if this did not come to fruition with the National Guard, would that nullify this resolution?
Not, I would say no, because once the resolution is in place, it's effective. The only question would be whether, going forward, if we're able to clarify the title work and then an amended quitclaim deed is presented, that's when the question would be whether it was premature to have the quitclaim deed amendment issued at that time without knowing whether the facility is going forward. On the other hand, I think it would be up to CMC to present an argument if they wanted as to how the deed restriction, which again dates back to 1972, may impact their ability to effectively use their property for even educational purposes. If, for example, they need to build facilities in order to advance and support educational purposes. So I don't think that this resolution at this point in time does anything except for demonstrate the intent to remove the restriction. And of course, that won't be done until the amended quitclaim deed is actually presented and signed off on by the board.
All right. At this time, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution 2015, a resolution, oh goodness, where is the title? Hold on a second. Oh, sorry. I lost it. What do you have as the title, Chris? I'm sorry. Oh, here we go. I see it. Oh, it doesn't really say, but okay.
Let's take down a specific title to the resolution.
Okay. Sorry, I move to approve resolution 2015 between the Lake County Board of Commissioners and Colorado Mountain College to amend our deed restriction on cited parcel.
All right, I will second. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any further discussion on the motion on the floor?
I do not.
All right, Commissioner Mudge?
Nope, thank you.
All right, seeing none, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you all very much. Rachel, we will get that recorded and get that back to you. Thank you very much, we appreciate it. So we'll move on now to agenda item number 6, which is land use special event process presentation. And I'm going to let Paul and Ann walk us through that documentation and the process that they're proposing.
Thank you, board. We have Building and Land Use has met with the other review agencies and worked in collaboration with them to bring this recommendation forward. We are starting to receive applications for special events for 2021. And we want to just make sure that we are aligning with the board's desires on how to address those and administer those asks. And I think that the way that we are choosing to do this is to adopt a responsive approach for events rather than establishing or suggesting and establish a maximum number of people for events. I think rather we would like to kind of take this on a wait and see basis. So we would allow for applicants to apply, and we will go ahead and ready the preparation on our side for these events with a disclaimer to the applicants that there is a chance of cancellation and postponement. And largely that will be, beyond any of our control, as we have no crystal ball to see what the situation is going to be and where we're going to be on the dial when these events would come to fruition. So we would just like to reach out and get the board's support for proceeding in this fashion. Also, we would make it known right up front that all application fees will be non-refundable. That'll be kind of the trade-off of us going ahead and putting in the administrative time and effort into preparing the readiness to the possibility of these events being hosted within the county in 2021. So that is basically the gist of the written recommendation that we've provided. And so we would go ahead and draft up the recommendation and some disclaimers to the applicants so that at the time of submittal, they'll know what the expectation is and that it is our desire to support where we can, but there may be limitations again this year. So we do have several members of the review agencies present who may also like to weigh in on thoughts. Jeremiah's with us, Kaylee's with us, Jackie, I see Steve, Michael Irwin. So thanks everybody for joining in the discussion today on kind of where we're at and what our discussions have been. So if I've left out anything, I would love any of the other agencies to kind of weigh in and share their thoughts behind the recommendation. And so just love to open it up to anyone else that might have comment.
Hi, this is Jackie Littlepage for Lake County Public Health Agency, Specific Environmental Health. I think Ann makes a very strong point that at this point in time, it's just too early for any of us to gaze into that crystal ball and know where we're going to be at with the pandemic and COVID-19 and our dial status according to the governor's orders. With that said, Lake County Public Health Agency also permits food temporary events. So it's just something to remember that we would need to piggyback those temp event applications with public health on the food side for review. And our fees are also non-refundable and will be completely determined on the dial status at the time in question. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Mudge. I think that all makes a great deal of sense. I wonder, maybe not to document it, but, well, sorry, I was reading through what you had sent, and I think you recap our decision of 250 persons, that decision made in May, regarding this year's special event. And I just wonder if we're going to have questions about our larger events that are planned. And I think, as you might already plan to communicate to those folks, I don't know that a clear end is in sight. I don't know that we would want to have, 1,000+ people convened, or encouraging them, as I know you have, to propose events out spectators. I don't see any objection to this, and I think in the spirit of your proposal to continue the conversation, the close conversation, I think your kind of message might have to shift slightly if you can even include those numbers and those statistics, given the timeline of whatever event might be proposed. I also actually want to say that you know, Anne, you said it's out of our hands, and I just want to spin that message because it is in our hands, and we all should take more responsibility and communicate that to each other and our neighbors and our community to improve community behavior. Because it is in our hands. We can do it. We can make the change. So please send that message.
Thanks, Commissioner Mudge. Is there any other questions or comments from the review agencies at this point in time? Okay. And I am looking at this material here and just want to be sure that I understand what, excuse me, you guys are asking for. Would you like a formal action taken on this proposal?
I think that just as staff and review agencies, we wanted to make sure that we aligned with the board's desire of how we administratively handle applications moving forward. So I think it was just having a conversation to make sure that we are properly aligning with the desire of the board.
Okay. I don't feel like at this time I have any other questions or any other comments in regards to the proposal or the recommendation that you had sent to us. Commissioner Glenn, do you have anything to add at this point?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right, so I don't, with that, and you're not looking for any kind of formal approval, I don't feel like there's any much else to discuss, but I appreciate the presentation and the recommendation and feel fine with that going into 2021.
Thank you,
Commissioner
Board.
Mudge, do you have anything else to add, or Commissioner Glenn, before we move on?
No, I just want to make it clear that I agree with their approach as proposed.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for starting this discussion so early. I appreciate it.
Thanks to all the review agencies that encouraged me to do so. So thanks to everybody else that helped.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate all the hard work that you do and all of the thought that you put into keeping our community safe. Thank you very much. All right. And so with that, we will move on to number 7. I believe Katie Baldessar is here from Build a Generation. And we have a fiscal sponsor request for the Communities That Care grant. Katie, I'm going to let you walk us through this.
Great, and commissioners, hopefully you received, I apologize, I didn't send it earlier, but send over this morning a kind of one-page proposal. So just by way of explanation, Communities That Care is a grant program out of the State Health Department that funds coalition work. We have Build a Generation has held that grant through the county for the last 5 years. We have historically used it to work on substance abuse and mental health prevention for a whole host of reasons that I won't go into. We think it makes a lot more sense in this round to use it to fund our work in the Housing Coalition. The funding we currently have sunsets next year, and so this would be a nice fit. And we have some other funding to fund our existing work on substance abuse and mental health. We are asking for fiscal sponsorship primarily because, so as you guys know, we were part of Lake County up until January 1st of this year. We are now our own nonprofit, and the challenge that we have is just that we have no financial history. I think the analogy I've used before is like, we're like a woman who gets divorced in her middle age, but has never had a credit history. So it is as if we did not exist. And the way this grant is structured, you lose points for how, if you don't, if you can't say, for example, like you've had an audit before. Well, we haven't because We've gone through the county audit, but we ourselves have not had an audit because we haven't existed. And so I think we have a better shot at the grant if we apply with the county as fiscal agent. You all are currently the fiscal agent on 4 grants, including Communities That Care. 3 of those grants go away next year. So if we re-upped Communities That Care, you would continue to be the fiscal agent on 2 grants. We've set up a structure for that, we being public health and your fiscal office, you know, by which we sort of figure out how much we've spent and make sure that the correct amount of money comes to us and the correct amount of money goes to you all. So that's really the request. I put in the proposal this morning. The grant doesn't require us to spend a lot of time talking about what the Housing Coalition would do. But we plan to continue the efforts that it's currently working on, which right now there's about 5 things, some policy work, some work for on financial literacy, some work to build up the housing authority, deed restrictions, and then developing new affordable housing. So yeah, that's kind of the base request. I think there's a slim chance that we would, you know, after asking for fiscal agency, we would say, well, I think we can apply on our own. We're trying to just check with the state on that. But my initial read is that it would be better to apply with you all as a fiscal agent. The grant is due in about 10 days. RFP came out a week or 2 ago. Took us a little while to kind of figure out what we were going to apply for. So questions?
Hi, Katie. I am wondering, I did talk to Christy because she had asked, reached out to the board as also other entities to fill out the questionnaire in support of the grant. It is the same grant, correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And she actually said that a lot of that work, I mean, I was very intrigued and supportive of work on the housing, supporting the housing authority, which is the city's housing authority. And then the policy work is focused on the city as well. Would it make any sense for the city to be a fiscal sponsor if a lot of that work is focused on city activities, or does it complicate it if we are when you are doing work for the city?
Great question. The nice thing about you all being the fiscal agent is that, so really it's the public health department. And so the public health department has already gone through their FRMS, financial risk management system process, and has a rating. And so we know that we would not lose points on the application. If you are not a public health department, you cannot have gone through the FRMS system. And so you might lose points on the financial risk assessment.
Okay, thank you. And what is the amount and like hours do you think that we would, I mean, I know you all have your own financial or finance person, so does public health. So what do we know, is that awarded for the 5 years or after is it revisited every year?
Great question. So the maximum amount you can apply for is $350,000 annually. And I think the minimum is $150,000. We probably apply, we haven't finished the budget yet, but probably in about the $200,000 range, so somewhere in the middle. You can apply for up to 5 years. We would probably be looking at, but you do a new letter every year, but you don't have to redo the whole application. We would probably be looking at applying for the full 5 years with the idea that housing is so complicated and so necessary that, right, like even if we complete the set of things we're working on now, there will be things to work on in the future, right? Like I think Pitkin County's been working on affordable housing for 25 years or something.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, yeah, the development of the housing authority is kind of key in my mind, one of the key things. And because they would house and administer all of those programs or compliance issues with policies or development. So no, I think it's incredibly important. I just want to be sure that the city has got, and I think we can make a decision whether or not we're the fiscal sponsor today. I guess I want to caveat that it seems that the city should have a pretty big place at the table in that, you know, working closely with you, which I think is happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's a coalition-based grant, so there is a lot we have to basically prove that we're working closely with all the stakeholders and all the partners, and that this is a problem that takes multiple stakeholders to solve, which I think it is. And then in answer to your question about sort of what does it mean to be a fiscal agent and how many hours on your end, I think we've got it, you know, we have to ask Crystal, but I think we've got things pretty well down. I think we do most of the work to figure out how, you know, how much exactly did we spend in these 3 months and how much do we ask for the state. So really, you know, on your guys' end, I don't think it's a ton of work. And I don't think it is on Julie's part either. Because same thing, you know, we have our own, as you said, we have our own bookkeeper. You know, we create all the invoices, you know, we spend the money, we create the invoices. And then we just make sure you guys have all of those records. I check in with Colleen, you know, probably even if you weren't the fiscal agent, I would be checking in with Colleen because we're doing, because our work is public health work. So she and I check in regularly, and but you know, our hope is that that work is complementary to the work that the public health department is doing. That they're, you know, they're mired obviously in a few other things right now, and so it's nice for us to be able to make sure that housing is still moving forward, because as you all know, we're in the throes of the Health and Happiness Project, and housing just still comes up as one of the top issues in the community.
Cool. Thanks, Katie. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any further questions for Katie or Build a Generation on the fiscal sponsorship?
I do not.
Commissioner Mutch?
No, thank you.
All right. I will entertain a motion at this point. Let's see here. Or I will make a motion that we enter into a fiscal sponsorship with Lake County Build a Generation for the Communities That Care grant.
Second.
Okay. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any further discussion?
I do not.
Commissioner Mudge?
No, thank you.
All right. Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Commissioner Mudge, was that an aye vote from you as well?
It was.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you. All right, Katie, if you'll coordinate with us on any kind of documentation that we might need and anything that we might need to address in our MOU. And then we'll also coordinate with our finance department to make sure that they understand the logistics of that grant.
Great. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much, Katie. All right. So we'll move on to the next item, which is the CARES funding request for Lake County School District. since we don't have the vehicle lease for the sheriff's office. I will present on this. I have been in pretty close contact with the school district regarding their needs for COVID response, and they have we have allocated in that CARES spreadsheet some additional funding for the school district up to $75,000. The school district can definitely use that amount of money of CARES funding to assist with their second day programming and their hybrid model so that they can continue to provide services to those families that need that for second day support. And after speaking with Bethany Massey, the superintendent, and Paul Anderson, CFO, it was determined that they could use that funding to assist with the payment for the 100 Alpha program that provides the second day support and academic intervention for students. So I would like to present to the board the funding request for $75,000 to the school district to assist with second day programming through the fall semester. Just to give kind of a little bit of background, the way the school finance formula has worked out with the state budget, there was some CARES funding that was allocated to school districts, and that CARES funding replaced some general fund dollars that normally come from the state with the school finance formula. And so they've had to work with a little less in their general fund. And the school fiscal year goes from July 1st to June 30th. Their CARES funding, however, expires on December 31st. And so this funding request would assist the school district with being able to free up funding for the spring semester to continue with any kind of second day supports or additional programming that they might need, which would be really helpful for our families. So that's their request, and I'll open it up to any kind of conversation or discussion at this point.
Thanks, Commissioner Marcella. I appreciate you chatting and discussing this with the school district. I think I would be in favor of this allocation. As you alluded to and mentioned, I think that when we're concerned about and trying to have CARES funding go as far as we can and meet family and community-wide needs, I think there's a strong correlation in how of the ability of the school district to provide that hybrid operational structure, both what I have observed as to meet their staff desires and concerns and family needs in being able to kind of have programming for that second day or that off day where those cohorts are not in school. I think that it is direct support for keeping people employed as we can, and I am in favor of contributing that portion of our CARES money to the school district. I guess with that too, I would also say that it is still a challenge for the school, and it is still really important to monitor behavior, and I think that this addresses some of those human services concerns too that we are seeing or can I guess project that we are not hearing, as I've heard you say, Commissioner Marcella and Janine, because kids are not necessarily in that environment around people who are responsible for doing some of that reporting. We don't know how many kids necessarily are home alone on those off days or could potentially be home alone on those off days. And school is a very safe place for them. So
yeah, definitely. Just to kind of add to your point there, we've seen, I think, statewide and perhaps nationally and locally, a drop in calls, like the advocates had said, calls into their hotline, calls into the child welfare and adult protective hotline. And when it comes to children, especially school can, for a lot of children, be their safe haven. And so when they're away from any of those mandated reporters, you know, sometimes that abuse and neglect goes undetected. So making that a priority for families is definitely helpful. It helps families get the supports that they need, either through the school district or DHS. So my request today is to allocate $75,000 to the school district to assist with those supports. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any other questions or comments about this request from the school district?
No, I don't.
Okay. Anything further, Commissioner Mudge?
No, I'd like to make a motion to allocate $75,000 of the county's CARES funding to the Lake County School District.
All right, I will second. Any further discussion, Commissioner Glenn?
No.
All right, Commissioner Mudge?
Yeah, I'd like to just also make a point that this is, you know, in our kind of working draft of things that we've considered over the past few months. This is not prohibiting any other proposal that might fall within our total allocation from the state. It didn't replace another request, I guess I'm trying to say. It's not in competition with something else. And again, I think it really goes a long way in spanning and meeting a wide community need. Meeting a wide community need. Sorry.
Well, thank you. All right, so all those in favor? Aye.
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 All right, thank you very much. I will coordinate with the school district to get that allocation over to them. Number 10, Public Works Enterprise Proposal. Michael Irwin, I am going to turn it over to you. This is for replacements and upgrades to the fleet. So I'll hand it over to you at this point.
Okay, so we've been working on this since, I just looked it up, since December of last year, so almost a year now. We're ready to move forward in it. All we need is board approval, and I guess legal approval too, to see if everything's all kosher and able to sign and move forward.
Michael, this is Commissioner Mudge. Could you give us a little bit more of an overview on, you know, our past conversations? We've talked about looking at some of those older vehicles and really consolidating our fleet, if you will, both operationally within, you know, the maintenance department or Public Works and Road and Bridge and across the board as far as department use and kind of one-off uses. I think that it would be important to speak a little bit to the idea that the savings that we can see and the staff time and the human resources that we think we will significantly reduce or eliminate with implementing phases of new, you know, a certain amount of new vehicles while we liquidate and get rid of some older vehicles that cost us a good deal as far as maintenance.
Right, so most of our vehicles are, I think the earliest one that we still have is a 1977 Jeep. And they go clear up to like last year. Most of them are 1990s, early 2000s. So they've lived their life and we keep putting them back. I mean, there's some of them that we've got 30 years, you know, we've had for 30 years. The fact that if we can get those off of the road, obviously it's going to save the county money and time and maintenance on them. Like this first round of vehicles that we're looking at are to replace the maintenance department's trucks. I believe the first one of them is like a 2007. The plows and everything, they are worn out. I mean, we're putting a lot of money into them, and you know, with Pub Works, we track those costs. And even though they're quote a newer vehicle compared to our standards, you know, they're taking a lot of money from the county. So if we get newer vehicles, obviously, we're going to save time and money in the shop. Only have to do like oil changes and things like that, tire changes maybe in the 5-year term. Also with this first thing that we're looking at is a truck for the airport that also has a plow to plow the parking lots out there. Yes, they do have big plows out there, but it's kind of hard to plow parking lots with a 20-foot blade. And there's also actually 4 vehicles, 2 pickup trucks and 2 Explorers that are to become fleet vehicles for anybody in the county employee to use at any time that, you know, they need to travel out of town or to travel on county business. And taking away some of the other cars that we have that just sit here in our lot right now that don't move very much.
Right, reducing those other numbers. The other thing, Michael, this is with Ford, and the sheriff's office is going to use Ford, and the other piece of that efficiency is moving towards having the same brand so that we can stock a lot of the same items.
Oil filters and stuff like that. So basically, you know, the cost of the contract for the 5-year term is an annual cost of $74,000, with the first year being $91,000. And the reason for that is all the plows and stuff that we're adding to the trucks. We have to pay 50% of that up front. Also, Enterprise will sell the vehicles that we have that we're taking off of our fleet and put that towards the cost also. So it's $74,000 a year for the first 10 vehicles that we've got that we're looking at, with an annual one-time cost of $26,000. That brings it up to the $91,000, which is the aftermarket cost. And if you guys want more information, Enterprise said they could come on and explain some more things to you, but I think I pretty much covered that.
Michael, I don't have any further questions at this point, I don't think. Did you run, I'm sorry if I missed this, did you run this through legal for their review as well?
Yeah, Chris, were you able to get through any of it?
I literally got through all but several of the individual leases for the vehicles about 60 seconds before this meeting started. And, you know, I'm going to be honest with you, the contract documents have some issues, and my only concern is how amenable to negotiation Enterprise is going to be. I do have some prior experience with them in that regard, and they haven't been very flexible. So, you know, my preference would be to finish marking up the documents and send them for y'all's review so you'll understand what the potential pitfalls may be. One of which is the cost that Michael just, I think, quoted to you, is not the bottom line. There are so many provisions in the contract documents that make the county responsible for pretty much everything that's related to these vehicles, regardless of who's at fault. You know, in addition, at the end of the contract, the termination fees and such include an allocation for essentially what I call depreciation of the vehicles while they've been in the county's possession. So, you know, one of the questions I had was whether the county had actually looked at the cost benefit analysis, if you will, between leasing and actually purchasing these vehicles. Because keep in mind that this is through Enterprise. They are not the manufacturers of the vehicles. So they do not warrant them. And so any issues that come up with the vehicles will be the responsibility of the county to address. And without seeing the warranty documents that come with these vehicles, whether or not Ford will recognize the county as the owner, if you will, for warranty purposes, if the vehicles are just leased, gives me some pause for concern. So there are just a number of things in looking at the documents themselves that I'm concerned with. And I just don't have any background information as to whether there was an analysis done that this would be substantially less expensive for the county to go through a lease process versus a purchase directly through with a manufacturer or a dealer or somebody like that, where you'd have better protection in terms of warranty and such. I just don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, and I can't really answer that because I know Brad did a lot of this before he left, and I just picked up at the tail end of it and was moving it forward. I do understand, that there's probably a lot of questions on their contracts. I know they did tell me that they wanted, they would take a check instead of ACH, to make the payments. And, that was a big thing because I don't want them just having access to accounts.
Yeah, and talking about payments though too, Michael, one thing you mentioned that I didn't see anywhere in the contract documents I've reviewed thus far was the notion that Enterprise will go on and take the county's vehicles that it's taking out of service, sell those, and credit any proceeds to the county's amount owed. I didn't see anything in there on that. So that's definitely something we want to get in writing. Also, as to, is there going to be an administrative fee for that, for them selling? And by selling, do you mean that they're just going to send them to the auction where you are likely to get pennies on the dollar as to what they're actually worth on the market? Would it make more sense for the county to try to sell them first before letting Enterprise essentially take those and perhaps not get as much value out of them?
Yeah, no, that's obviously an option all the time for the county. And, we've sold our stuff at auctions before, either, online auctions or at actual auction houses. And we've usually done pretty good with that. So I would not be, against doing that. Basically, they put a value of $1,000 on each car is what they said, for something that old. They'd be lucky to get $1,000, but we could always put it online and try to auction it off. They don't have to take them. We can keep them and sell them ourselves.
Chris, I appreciate you bringing those points up, and Michael, I will acknowledge that I think we've been trying to vet some of these things, and it's been really difficult to connect with some other options. So that being said, maybe I feel like we really should take the next couple of weeks and set up conversations to include Chris, or at least for us to work with her, and then also speak with Enterprise and perhaps Ford directly, but not in a way that, I understand we want to get moving and understand what to budget for next year. And I don't think that anybody disagrees with the concept of, that we're talking about. Do you think we can do that? And Enterprise, we can wait to give Enterprise an answer by the beginning of December?
Yeah, I think that they're pushing towards the end of November anyways, but I don't think that it's going to hurt to push them off a little bit, at least into the first part of December. They're just worried about getting, being able to get vehicles ordered before they, the factory shut them off.
Yeah. The one thing I'll offer too, one of the aspects of my life is I'm actually represent a number of automobile dealership groups and such, or have in Virginia, and I'm a member of a national network that may be able to help identify some potential resources. If Michael, you don't have any, to kind of have something to compare with in regards to fleet offerings, either for lease or purchase. If that would help, I'm happy to try to collect some information for you on that.
That would be great. Yeah, I've tried to contact the Ford dealership here and not the one that around.
Yeah.
And I haven't gotten a phone call back from them yet, so.
Yeah, most independent dealerships, unless they're part of a large automotive group, don't have fleet operations. So it's might be better to try to find one of the bigger operators, see if they could help with that. And I'll reach out to see what we can identify for Ford.
Okay.
Oh, and
So
also,
let's go ahead and, sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Marcella, I was just, in the meantime, I'll also finish reviewing the documents and mark them up and send them with my comments back to Michael. So he'll be able to see what some of the comments, questions, and concerns are with those documents. So if we do end up circling back around to enterprise, we'll know what we need to work on.
Okay, sounds good. So that will be great. Then we can move on to our next agenda item, which is a discussion of the landfill fee increases. Michael, I'm going to let you take this over and talk to us about your proposal.
Since I didn't see that on there because the one that I got only ends at 10, I've been working on that kind of most all day anyways. I still haven't come up with an exact number of what's going to be beneficial or is going to help us get there. But so everybody knows, and this is just conversation right now. If we plan on doing this, maybe for a vote in the near future, but we are at a juncture in time where we have to make a decision very quickly. And I'm not pushing that, but I will explain why. We are looking at having to line our landfill for the next cell. We kind of knew this was coming. We were hoping it wasn't going to happen, but they did find some groundwater contamination. It's not at any action level, but they want to keep, meaning the Colorado Department of Health and the EPA, want to keep that from growing or becoming worse. Therefore, the next cell they want to be lined. And the cost for that lining, as an estimated cost right now, is $850,000+. And that's just an engineering estimate right now, not really down to the penny or anything, but that's where we're at. And so the timeline is right now, we're getting ready to put trash in the new cell that we just finished. And from the day that we start putting trash in that cell, we have 3 years to come up with a solution for the next one and have that next one ready to go in that 3-year time. And that's when, we're going to need the money to build that next cell. So that's where we're at. I've done some figures on, raising fees $1 and then a cost of living. We talked about a cost of living increase last year about the same time. We did not move forward with it. And I'm just working on some numbers now. I've gone from $1 to $10 a cubic yard to try to get the money and also include the landfill's budget in those fees to make sure that it's self-sustaining, which it should be. I hate talking about landfill increases, but we're at that juncture in time where we've got to talk about it again, or we're not going to have a landfill. And options to that are becoming a transfer station and hauling it to another landfill outside of the county, which is only going to be more expensive.
Michael, when was the last time we increased landfill fees?
2015, I believe.
Okay.
So 5 years ago.
And what would be the proposed increase at this point?
That's what I'm still working on, the numbers to make sure that, the landfill budget is covered in that, plus putting money aside for the 850. And, I just haven't come up with a number for that yet. And I'm looking at, raising the fee and then also doing a cost of living every 6 months increase on it.
Okay, so like doing an increase comparable to like the consumer price index.
Right.
Okay. Every year, or every 6 months, is that what you
Every
said?
6 months, I believe is what we're going to have to do. You know,
Okay.
we could hold it to a year, but 50 cents on a cubic yard is not a whole lot of money.
Yeah. Okay. Is that typical for what landfills around us do for fee
Yeah,
increases, or?
yeah, it is. You know, most of them are already lined, where Lake County is not. And in order to stay unlined, we have to prove that we're not contaminating groundwater every 5 years. Well, the state came up and drilled 2 wells, and they found contamination in one that's closer to the landfill than the county's well, which is downstream from it, or so we thought.
So, Michael, you said something at the beginning too, that they found traces, the results that they're finding are not actionable, but they'd like for us to line the landfill? Like we aren't hitting a threshold, or we are clearly hitting a threshold of contamination?
No, they have found some contamination in the water samples, volatile organic compounds, different ones, but according to the Colorado Department of Health, we are not at an action level yet. They want to keep us from reaching an action level and having to deal with cleaning groundwater, which would also not be fun.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, sorry, Kayla, I think you asked this question, what fees were around in the region, or I guess, I think you asked maybe to the methodology, but.
No, I was looking at other landfill fees too. You know, either Summit County or Chaffee, and we are right now a little bit higher than them. Not by much, because like Summit County's got a minimum fee of $20 to get in the landfill for 0 to 300 pounds. We're at $15 for that. And then they've all got scales, and that's another thing. We could scale people, and you know, they're like $70 a ton for trash, $70 and $90 a ton.
Could that be commercial?
Yeah, that's, you know, both of them basically, they're right around the same. Commercial actually was lower at Summit County, I believe.
I'm wondering too, Michael, not only just, you know, looking at crunching some of those numbers to cover that cost of lining, which will have to happen in the next couple of years, since we have the 3 years to actually put, you know, physically do that work, and then get certified through CDPHE. You've expressed concern with the time that it takes to get the sign off, right, from CDPHE and EPA on some of the work that we've already done. But I wonder if we should also include in our conversation, you know, recycling and improvements on recycling, and covering, you know, collecting some sort of fees to cover that. I know it's an ongoing challenge of contamination and staff, and it's, you know, one thing that I hear, I'm sure a lot of us hear a lot about, is, you know, how well we recycle. So I guess I'm just suggesting we include that in the conversation of, you know, those fee increases, and try to allocate funding or more support there as well.
Yeah, and so you all know, and this is not to change the topic, Lake County did receive a grant from Colorado Department of Health this year to purchase a new roll-off truck, which will greatly help in our off-site roll-off, drop-off sites. A lot of times right now we can't get them all cleaned up and keep moving the stuff out of county, which we hope we'll be able to do a lot better with this new truck.
Okay. Michael, I'm assuming then that this fits into our next agenda item with the 4-acre cell at the landfill, right? Because the lining goes with the 4-acre cell at the landfill, is that correct?
Yeah, that 4-acre cell is what needs to get lined, and we'll have to have a leachate collection system and everything in that cell. So that all ties together.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I was understanding it correctly. So the fee increase is going to be used to develop the next 4-acre cell.
That is correct.
Okay, then that makes sense to me. Okay, thanks for that. So when ideally would you propose to have a public hearing and adopt new landfill fees? What would your timeline be on that?
Before the first of the year, so within the next 6 weeks.
Okay. And I'm assuming that Commissioner Mudge is working with you on that as your overseeing commissioner, and then we can look through some drafts of those at a work session prior to the adoption, maybe in late December.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not answering for Sarah though. She can answer for herself.
She gave a thumbs up, so I think she's good. Okay, sounds good. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any questions or comments or any discussion on this topic at this point?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I have to say, board too, Michael and I have had discussed this a bit, and I think we'd love a sense of, part of me is thinking, well, if if the numbers crunch out and it ends up being a $2 increase on the onset with that CPI index kind of then determining or helping us determine what that percentage increase is every 6 months or every year, is that palatable to the board to increase by $1, $2? Part of me is thinking, well, let's, I think it really, of course, all depends on the numbers and how that shakes out. But I think that we could increase, up to $2 and then talk about those incremental increases either to a point or just as it relates to operation and maintenance of the landfill. But I think Michael and I have slightly differing opinions on that. So I'd love to hear any thoughts you might have there as to whether or not $1 or $2 or what do you think is reasonable with the information, what little information you have right now, maybe?
I think that yearly is more amenable to me than every 6 months at this point. And I think as long as we can plan, as long as we can figure out a way to project what the increase is going to go to cover. So like if we can say that a certain percentage of that increase is going to go towards covering that lining of the landfill and the expansion into that new 4-acre cell, to me, that would be more palatable to say we're putting X amount of dollars away for that every year from the increase. And I think I'd still need to see some information in regards to what happens at landfills around us to see what would be really palatable for an onset increase, like an initial increase. Is that initial increase going to be bigger than just the CPI increase of like $1 or $2? Or, would we take that jump and make it $20 a cubic yard? Because it's $15 right now, correct, Michael?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so are we going to take that leap and make that initial increase because we haven't done it in 5 years and then start that CPI increase in 2022 or 2023, or what does that look like? So I think for me, it's more palatable to think about a yearly increase in accordance with the CPI instead of 6 months, and then looking at what's comparable around us with maybe an initial increase.
Yeah, and your question about are we going to do $2 or $5, jump it to 20? I think that's what we're asking the board, albeit perhaps unfairly without seeing some more of those numbers crunched. But I do completely agree that it would be good to include the justification and a clear plan of, 5-year or 10-year covering these costs, and also the lining of the landfill, the recycling program perhaps, and then we always need to continue to contribute to the landfill closure fund, over time. We're required to have a certain amount in there, which we don't right now, but if we could allocate a little bit towards that over time with these funds, that would be great. And I think probably administratively, I wonder if it makes more sense to do more, make a bigger change now and then talk about some of that increase based on, the CPI over time. That actually is a reasonably administrative or easily administrative. If we charge $15.70, it's kind of gonna be a nightmare, perhaps, on cash in hand or something like that. So yeah, I think there are some details for sure to sort out that Michael, I can help with Michael and Robin. We'll do our best to get that a little more clarity around that and to bring it back to the board in maybe a couple of weeks.
Okay. Sounds good. Commissioner Glenn, what are your thoughts, or do you have any input or any information to consider?
Well, I can't make a decision now. I need to see more numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I guess at that then, Michael and Commissioner Mudge, can we maybe try to put this on a work session, not next week, but the following week after Thanksgiving potentially, to discuss a little more?
Yeah, that'd work for me. Like I said, I've got a lot of the numbers already worked out. I'm just, trying to figure out the budget, operational budget of the landfill and what it could be over the next 3 years.
Okay.
And, be able to take that out of that fund to see what could possibly go directly towards the expansion.
Okay.
From any increase that we did.
Okay. Cool. Sounds good to me. Anybody have anything else then before we move on to our next agenda item? No? All right. All right, so we will move on to our next agenda item, which is reports, minutes, bills, and payroll. Okay.
Did we cover, Michael? I'm sorry, Commissioner Marcelo, did we cover
no, that's okay.
the 4-acre cell expansion in our discussion there, Michael? Or do you have more to touch on that?
The first contract of $800,000, $850,000. No, I don't think we got anything to cover on that right now, except for, where we have to be at, and that's where we're trying to get to.
Okay, but you got the discussion that you were looking for on that 4-acre, on the next 4-acre cell.
Yeah, it's combined to this price increase because we need $850,000 to do that expansion on that 4-acre cell.
Right. Okay. I just want to make sure you didn't have anything else specific to that, unrelated to the landfill fee question.
No, I don't. I mean, that, it's just an extension of the cell that we're getting ready to start using. And, if we don't have that next one in line ready to go, like this one is, in 3 years, we don't have a landfill because they've already told us at a commissioner meeting that they would give us only a 3-year extension of the existing permit.
Okay.
And at that point, if we didn't have something ready to go they would force closure of the landfill. And they already want to force closures of part of it, which is not out of the realm of what, what we have in the plan. But we can use closure money for that. And, we've already got that set aside.
Okay, cool.
What is the time frame, Michael, on the 3-year cell that we are about to start using next year? And then adding a new 4-acre cell, how much life will that give the landfill?
Probably about another 5 to 6 years is all, and then we got to start looking again. So it's just going to go continue from here, especially since it's got to be lined. Every cell from now on has to be lined, even though our permit, our EDOP, engineering design and operations plan, is for the next 264 years. It's been approved. Every time we do a cell, it's going to cost money from now on.
So Michael, the next cell, the next 3-acre cell, correct?
It'll be 3 to 4 acres.
Okay, the cell that you're moving into though, does that have to be lined as well?
No, it's already been approved and ready to go. We can put trash in it for the next 3 years.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. Sorry about that.
No
I
problem.
just want to make sure I was following it correctly. Whew.
I have troubles too, and I've been working on this landfill thing for, since 2014.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think if we can think about maybe trying to have a draft or some information prepared for a work session, maybe on December 1st, that would be great. Well, yeah, I guess December 1st. Yeah, December 1st, if we could maybe have a work session and talk about that at 1 o'clock, and then that would be great. It doesn't look like we have anything on our calendars at that point, so that'd be awesome if we could think about doing that.
Okay, cool. That'd be good.
Okay. Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Commissioner Mudge, for putting that on the agenda. I appreciate it. All right, so with that, then we will move into our next agenda item, which is the reports, minutes, bills, and payroll. And today we have the Veteran Service Officer Report for October 2020 and bills and payroll for pay period ending November 6th, 2020. And so I will make a motion that we approve the Veteran Service Officer Report for October 2020 and the bills and payroll for pay period ending November 6th, 2020.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion, Commissioner Glenn?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Mudge?
No, thank you.
Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 All right, thank you very much. And so with that, I think we don't have anything else to touch on today. So we have a work session scheduled tomorrow at 1 p.m. And so we will probably see most of you there. All right, thank you. Stay safe. Wear your face covering.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.